I want to offer you a different definition of paradise in this episode. And yeah, what do you associate with paradise? Like when you hear that word, do you get the biblical garden image in your head? Do you get these feelings of resistance? Because we do often put paradise in the utopian corner, like we label it as unachievable. We don't even discuss the question if it's achievable or not. We are more like, there's this presumption, there is this inherent quality in paradise that it is not achievable. And let me back off a little bit. I remembered my math teacher this morning, who was like in primary school. I used to be pretty good at maths, and we had a teacher he was like the best teacher in the world. Very, very open-minded and open-hearted person. And he would treat each one of us students in a very individual, like very personalized way. So he usually would just praise me, basically, because I was like the best of the class. And I remember this one distinct moment where I was handing in some exercise and he looked at it and he just said, there's better ways of doing this. Something like that. And I remember that was the moment where I really felt loved, where this tough love that you receive from an expert, from somebody you know is not against you, but with you, and still he's like, you've done a bad job here, So I wonder why we do not do that as a society. Like, why do we set standards so low? Especially here in like the Western world, we are so proud of all the technological progress and all that. And at the same time, we are in survival mode like most of the hours of the day. And it seems like efficiency is the new religion. So like these days, everybody's talking about AI and how amazing AI is because it like makes everything more efficient. And I'm like, wait a second, this is the same promise that we got in the Industrial Revolution times, like when it was like, imagine all this, the machines doing work for you, so you will not have to work so many hours anymore. And I'm like, wait a second, this never happened. Like, if you ever heard of the rebound effect, you know what I'm talking about. It's that effect that whenever you take a process and you make it more efficient, that does not create more freedom on the other end, but rather it just adds more on the list somehow. So it might be related to the Parkinson's law, maybe. You can look that up if you want. I will not explain that further here. But what I'm about is like, okay, if we are capable of creating this amazing technology, and if there is so much automation going on, why can we not relax a bit more? Why cannot there be more of paradise in our day-to-day life? Like if we compare where we are now with Middle Ages or even with 200 years ago, so much progress went on and we are more stressed and more sick than we ever were. So why is that? And I guess the perspective that I want to offer is that we tend to produce more of the same depending on where we put our focus. So it seems like there is this natural law that when we see things in a certain way, then this is how we will experience these things. So like somebody who is financially literate will see opportunities everywhere, and somebody who is not will see fine print everywhere, and somebody's trying to take away his money everywhere, and this will be their reality. And these people may even live next door and, go to the same shops even. But I sometimes say humans are perceptionists, because it seems like the only thing that I can say is really me, is really mine, is my perspective. Like, there is no way to tell you how I actually perceive the world, because all the words that I would use to describe that will go through your perception. So I used to do this little game, kind of little exercise in my mind. I would think of things that we take for granted, like the definition of what is up and what is down. And I would think, maybe this other person, like my dad, for example, whenever he says up, maybe he perceives it the other way around. And there's no way to know that, because the words that he uses are aligned with what he perceives. So maybe he perceives up as something that I would perceive as down, but then he still calls it up because this is how he sees it. And the same is with colors, and the same is with basically everything. So there's no way for me to know how you really see things. Like, I cannot look through your lens. We can talk about everything, we can compare everything based on these lenses that we have, but we cannot compare the lens itself. And that makes each one of us super unique. It's like nobody sees the world the same way as you see the world, or as I see the world. And frankly, we come here with this intention to, okay, let's incarnate into a human body for a few decades and see how it is to have this perception. It's almost as if the universe is trying to experience itself through these different lenses. It's like a thing that wants to experience itself and look at itself from as many different angles as possible. What does this have to do with paradise? The only way I can really talk about paradise that makes sense to me is that it is a way of seeing the world, and it is not an actual state of the world. Because if we even start defining paradise, let's say paradise would be if we get rid of all the pollution, and we get rid of all the poverty, and whatever the other 17 sustainable development goals are, for example. Let's say we achieve all that is written there. Like, assume this would be possible. Assume that we can get there. Assume that for some reason politicians stop being selfish, and the economy somehow aligns with human values, and we somehow develop a bit more compassion for the planet and for each other and for the animals, and and then we get to a point where this is all done. Do you really believe that by that point we would not have discovered other problems or other things that we want to change or to solve? It's like, would that really feel like paradise? It is almost as if this idea has like a finite nature, as if there is an end point to something. And at least for me, this is not how I experience this universe. I don't see anything as finite here. So when we talk about, or when we think about the paradise being something out there, as if it is a state that we can theoretically reach, but we do not trust ourselves to ever reach, so we do not even try, appear a bit boring. Like, in conversations with other people, when we talk about paradise, sometimes, or actually quite often, people say things like, oh, but wouldn't that be boring? Like, isn't paradise boring? Isn't it boring to live a life just full of pleasure and no And I'm like, you're not talking about the same paradise, because for me, a world that is full of pleasures and full of joy, this is not boring. Like, it is not void of conflict necessarily. It is not void of tension, because tension is built into this universe. Like, the whole premise of being alive is based on the ultimate experience of separation. Like, you literally are born out of another human being, like being in this oneness for 9 months, and then you get spit out and try to find a way to exist in an individual sort of body. So the whole premise of being here is there is pain and there is moments of conflict and there is moments of tension, and this is where potential creates movement. It's like in physics, where you have, in physics, potential means a difference in voltage, for example, like the thing that you have in the power plug, those 230 or whatever volts, that's a potential difference, and potential creates current, so something can flow, so it creates movement. And this whole life on Earth is based on the movement. Like, we always have a state where we are right now, where how I perceive my life to be right now, and there is always something better that I want, something that I strive for, and this creates movement. So the whole idea of having this simulation, or whatever you want to call it, is literally us having individual perspectives in order to learn about ourselves as a collective, and each one of us has their own desires. That's like the second trait that is indistinguishable, that is very personal, and there's no way I can argue with your desires. Like, there's no way to unwant something you want. You know, when you say, I want to be a doctor, then I'm like, who am I to say, no, you're not? It's like, this is something that cannot be taken away from you. So your perspective and your desires, so all the desires that we have, move ourselves forward in this constant, ever-changing flow. And every time you reach a certain point that you were wishing for days or years ago, by then the next ideal, the next wish, the next desire has been already formed, and you are already on your way forward. So it feels a bit hypocritical to say there is some paradise that is like, that has a fixed kind of shape and it does not have development built into it, right? So if there is development built into it, then there is also conflict and tension and this experience of contrast built into it as well. But if all of that is true, then aren't we living in the paradise now? Like, how can we know that this is not paradise? I don't know how you define it for yourself, but for me, I came to understand that the only definition I can really go with is to say that paradise is the world where everybody understands that they live in paradise. So in this moment, when I remember, then I can be there. And if I slip and if I focus on what I do not have versus what I have, but not in a creative way, not creating movement, but rather being a victim of my situation, or complaining, or being resentful. These are all like the heavy sort of versions of me that do not acknowledge the fact, if you will, or the idea that we live in paradise right now. Like everything is possible and we can create movement and we can create the things that we desire. So I'm curious to hear from you, like what is your own definition of paradise? Like what do you strive for? If efficiency is so important for us because it has this built-in promise of freeing up time and space and energy for the things that we really want to experience, what is it that you really want to experience? Like if efficiency itself is not the end goal, then do we take our time to even remember what the end goal is? Even being a momentary end goal, because there is no end goal, but there must be something that you are aiming for. Otherwise, you would not be here. So for me, the moments where I feel most reminded of paradise is when I see people being authentic in their expression. And not even just people, also animals, or even when I'm in the mountains and I see a mountain river or a lake or just some rocks being rocks, or when you see a dog just being a dog. And when you can really connect with that, these are moments of deep joy for me. When I see some Asian pottery guy doing those massive, like, beautiful vases or something, and you see, like, you literally feel how his hands, by doing this craft, his hands are like the absolute superpower of his existence, and he's been doing that for like 40 years every day, and you can see, and this work is just amazing. And I have to tear up when I see humans being so centered in their craft, being so authentic and so human. And the same thing that I see not only with crafts, but also with authentic expression. Even when people are sad or angry or fearful, like recently I've seen a few documentaries about filmmaking nowadays and how the craft of filmmaking is developing and changing, and how in recent days there has also been a lot of efficiency going on and a lot of techniques like green screens and all that make it really difficult for actors to actually be actors and do their craft. And when I read like YouTube comments from like professional filmmakers, that say things like, I cannot wait for this era to end, I cannot wait for us to move on from this BS that I'm experiencing right now. You might put that in the drawer of complaints, but for me, this particular moment is like, I can really feel that in my heart. I can feel the pain of this person, and it is so authentic and it is so real. And for me, these are the reminders that I do live in paradise right now, because there is so much real stuff going on when I focus on it and allow myself to see it. So I'm just gonna quote one of my favorite songs from Yaima. She sings, "And I'm here now right before you, and I'm present in this moment, and my life's work is to honor the great beauty all around you." So I hope this was helpful, and thank you very much for listening, and take good care.